Will the aldermen please take their seats? Hi, Alan. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is June 2nd, 2025. We welcome you to the June 2nd, 2025 meeting of the Milford Board of Aldermen. Please join me as we salute our flag. Madam Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Alderman Archiola.
Present.
Alderman Beatty.
Present.
Alderman Bevan.
Here.
Alderman Casey.
Here.
Alderman Federico.
Here.
Alderman Fowler.
Here.
Alderman Healy. Alderman Jenkins.
Here.
Alderman Marlowe.
Here.
Alderman Morenin.
Here.
Alderman Pacelli.
Here.
Alderman Smith.
Here.
Alderman Vitro.
Here.
Alderman Vitale. Alderman Willis.
Here.
All are present.
We have 15 present. Thank you, Madam Secretary. We do have a quorum. The next portion of this meeting is devoted to public comment. Statements are strictly limited to the legislative functions of the Board of Aldermen. Please use every effort to limit public speaking to the permissible business of the Board of Aldermen. The time granted to each speaker shall be 3 minutes. Residents, taxpayers, and electors may address the board at this time. The board encourages speakers not to express derogatory, insensitive, or offensive statements, or to engage in personal attacks against individuals. In order to allow everyone an opportunity to speak, I'd ask that everyone please limit their comments to 3 minutes. Please keep in mind, that the structure of our meeting does not allow for a two-way dialogue during public comment or to answer any of your questions. Residents can contact their district alderman by phone or email regarding your issue or concerns. We welcome and appreciate your comments and concerns. We also appreciate your regarding city business and community matters. And we all take into consideration anyone wishing to address the board. Please state your name and address clearly for the record. For those who are under 18 and looking to speak, please share as much information as you feel comfortable. There is no requirement to have your full name and address included in the record. Anyone wishing to address the board can do so at this time.
Chairman, do I have permission to approach the board to pass out these pictures? May I pass out these pictures? They're relevant to the conversation. My name is Roberta Silver, 55 Governors Avenue. Again, I thank you all for the work that you do on behalf of the city. I am here in support of the new health department building. I think that will be a marvelous addition to our town. However, if the 8-24 process ties our hands, not just to the building, but more importantly to the specific site, then I have some comments for you. You have some pictures in front of you from a recent Board of Education event honoring Teachers of the Year and retirees, and also some of the Memorial Parade Assembly, that's one of our smallest parades, as examples of how that lot fills up. The Wasson Field parking lot is used for many important community events, including, but not limited to, the very popular farmers market, which completely fills the parking area and overflows out onto the street due to the large attendance. There's parking for baseball games, middle school graduations, special events held at Parsons Complex, including those that I believe bring in revenue through such things as the concerts and the dance recitals. On a regular basis, Board of Education members and other members of the community have to park to go into Parsons and have trouble finding parking because the Wasson lot field is full. As a former Board of Ed employee, I can't tell you how many times I had to go park somewhere else when I came for a meeting at the building because I couldn't get in. There was not enough parking. For instance, today was not an exceptional day, but the lot was completely full to that halfway entry spot that is indicated on the site plan that you'll be looking at later tonight. The last reason that I urge you to reconsider this site is because when it was presented to Planning and Zoning last month, it was stated that there was a lease with the church to use their parking lot for 365 days a year. At the present time, not only is there no such agreement, but the church has not been approached requesting such an agreement. As a member of that congregation, I heard a statement at the 8-24 hearing that made me check in with my building and property trustees and the senior pastor of the First United Church of Christ. and I can assure you that there is no such agreement. If in the future an agreement would be reached with the church, it would certainly not be for 365 days a year, as the church has activities that occur not only on the weekends, but during the weekdays, such as funerals and other activities for our many organizations at the church. Without the church parking lot, there will be insufficient parking at the Wasson Field, as I've already mentioned all the other uses that it has. Additionally, as you look at your site plan, you'll be able to see there's a legal single-lane pass-through and an exit on the south side of the proposed building. It's very narrow, which is why there's diagonal parking, but it doesn't make it that safe. Again, I am in full support of a new building for the health department, but perhaps consideration should be given to other sites. Let's not rush into jamming something in somewhere that's not optimum. Maybe the academy site to combine with the present Health and Human Services building would be good, because there's lots of parking over there and easy and safe access. I thank you for your consideration of my thoughts.
Good evening. My name is Joan Caginello, 17 Westminster Court in Milford. I'm here with a couple of my board members from the Board of Health. Chris Ganillo, you can give your name and your address.
Thank you. Christine Ganello, 214 Seaside Avenue, Milford.
And Penny?
Good evening, Penny Basilis, 111 Broadway, Milford, Connecticut.
Okay. And as I said, we're from the Board of Health. I'm the chairperson of the Milford Board of Health, and I just want to speak to you about item 8B on your agenda tonight regarding the approval of the construction of a new city building for the Milford Health Department. I believe I have a unique perspective for this building. I've not only am the current Board of Health chair, but I also worked at the health department for 17 years, so I also was an employee in that building and the building before, and also I'm a resident. I just wanted to let you know that I've worked with 4 health directors. Dr. Kraus, going back for some of you, you remember Dr. Kraus, Dr. Bob England, who is fondly known as Dr. Bob, Dr. McBride, and our current wonderful health director, Deepa Joseph. I've worked in both the old building and where we are right now is the new building, although it's about 25 years old. Located, the first building was located in the front parking lot of Milford Hospital, for those of you who are not aware of that. And I'll give you a little historical about that. The old building was antiquated. It was antiquated when it was really an old building to begin with. The windows didn't open. The medical equipment that was in, I'm a nurse, I'm a registered nurse. The medical equipment that was in the medical clinic belonged in a museum. Furniture was the same. It could have been all in a museum. And most importantly, that building wasn't accessible to people. It was a 3-story building. We used the basement for a medical clinic. The first floor was the main offices for residents to come in, and the third floor was for the sanitarians, the people who do all your food inspections and sewer inspections and septic. There was no elevator. Our move to the new building was wonderful. We were thrilled. We were moving into the old Goodwill, for those of you who remember. It had a building that was all on one floor. Perfect. Everyone can get in the building. That's great. The loading dock that was up some stairs was just for employees that would have for supplies up there. We had a crawl space in the basement for more supplies, and we were very happy to go into this new building. And it was on New Haven Avenue, which was accessible, which was great. We didn't realize how limited that parking was until we got there and tried to park cars. It's very inaccessible for residents to come to our building, unfortunately. The rooms that we had in the building were a little bit different than there are now. If you've been in the building recently, we used to have 2 clinic rooms that were for well-child clinics and immunizations. We lost one of those clinic rooms because we lost the contract with the VNA to do well-child clinics, and that was turned into an office for our much-needed community health coordinator, which is terrific. But we did lose that one medical office. It didn't take long once we were in that building to realize that there wasn't enough space or adequate parking. Jump forward now to our recent years. We've significantly outgrown the space. Additionally, the Human Services Building, as you are well aware, has now combined with the Health Department. DEPA oversees both of those staffs and buildings and has to go between those two buildings. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing that you've combined the Health and Human Services. It's wonderful. But it's not wonderful that logistically she's in two different places and those staffs can't be together. That would be ideal. On the interior of that building, in pandemic times, if you visited the health department at all, in that lobby where all of our residents are received, it was filled with medical supplies because there was no place else to store them. The clinic number 2 room that was celebrated initially is now an office for the community health coordinator, and the lack of private areas is very evident during immunization clinics. There's concern for protected medical information because that health department is very open. There's a staff meeting area in the back that's our only meeting area, but because the walls don't go to the ceiling, anything you're discussing, you really don't have to ensure any privacy at all. So you have to use your discretion in what you're discussing. Exteriorly, the parking availability is grossly lacking. This is most concerning for our residents who come for monthly immunization clinics, flu clinics, COVID vaccine clinics. And this is one thing I just wanted to mention to you. During our COVID pandemic, when we were giving out the vaccines, you know that we used Parsons for several months to give out the vaccines, and that's great, it was a city building. But once the city needed that building back to use for the functions that they had, we had to go rent space with Subway to give the vaccines out. So we were having expenditure for space. We were renting space because we couldn't provide the vaccines in our own health department, which is really too bad. I ask you to please approve these proposed construction ideas. The new location is adjacent to the Parsons Government Center, which is ideal for people who are coming to the health department and have to get permitting over at Parsons, as well as things done at the health department. It can be kind of one stop in the area. So we would love for you to consider that. Thank you. And if you would like to say anything else, please do.
Yes, Penny Basilis again. As far as the farmers market, and we all support farmers markets in town, that operates every Saturday through the summer. And I'm sure throughout our great city of Milford, there are other sites that we could put the farmers market, whereas our health department operates 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, 52 weeks a year, every year. And so the need for that is greater, I feel, than a farmers market once a week in the summer. But as Joan so eloquently put, the work that the health department does, from immunizations, community health, food safety, school health nursing, the work they do there is tremendous. And we are so full of gratitude to have DEPA and the team, keeping our community safe. So pursuant to approval from Planning and Zoning, I'm asking the Board of Aldermen to please give approval for the new building and the site proposed. Thank you.
Again, Christine Ganello, I wholeheartedly endorse the previous 2 comments, and I do urge the Board of Aldermen to approve the proposal as indicated. Thank you.
Good evening. Trista Samansek, 61 Governors Avenue. Fully support the building and the good work that they offer for the city, but I would be interested to know if any other sites were even considered, because it is taking up some valuable parking. We know parking is tight in town, and there's a lot of activity that takes place on that location. So that I would urge you to just try and, if you can question and find that out. And also just what's going to happen to the buildings that they're already occupying today. They already cost the city money to maintain, and even if we shutter them, that's still going to cost the city money to maintain. So what's our plan for redeploying those buildings or selling them, or just thinking forward once we have this new building in place? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Del Vecchio. I live at 9 Mill Pond Close. I've lived in Milford for 15 years and my children are in elementary school. I'm here tonight to let you know how disappointed I am by the recent vote to raise the mill rate. When politicians put politics over policy and what is best for their constituents, it's a very bad day for Milford. I'm grateful to the Republican aldermen who tried to decrease taxes and adopt a flat budget. My question to the Democrat aldermen is, what did the taxpayers get by the increase in the mill rate? Did the Board of Ed get any funding back? What did we get other than a higher mill rate, which will only be exacerbated when the town has a property tax reevaluation? The only thing the taxpayers got was the only thing the taxpayers got were higher taxes and a political narrative and strategy. The increase is on the Democrat alderman, and it's not on our mayor. It's my understanding that the Republican alderman had a discussion to get a flat budget using general fund money. This would have also put $340,000 back into the Board of Education. While not a full restoration of the Board of Ed ask, this money could have saved teacher jobs. But due to politicking, this wasn't something that the aldermen would entertain. This was evident by 2 Democrat aldermen saying, "We are not going to give the mayor a flat budget that he can use to campaign on." Quoted in the Connecticut Insider, "We should have taken more time," Alderman Federico said. "It's more important that we do a good job when voting on this budget for the citizens of Milford than having the meeting go how you would like it to go, which is to vote yes on everything, giving you a flat tax rate, and let you run that in your campaign." Low taxes are not a win for the mayor. They're a win for the taxpayers. I appreciate Mayor Ginatasio's and the Republicans' willingness to avoid a tax increase while also trying to add funds back to the Board of Ed. I think we all need to take a good look at those who represent us and make sure that they have our interest in mind when they cast their votes. Low taxes are not a Democrat or Republican narrative. They are important to all of us. Lower taxes, fiscal responsibility, and a better Milford for all should be priority number 1 for our representatives. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Lee Lepper. I live over at 54 Nicole behind Florin High School. The topic that I am going to speak to you about is who really is responsible for Milford's tax increase, and not what you're hearing out there, which is really not the truth. When Mayor Ricciatelli ended his successful mayoral career, the town's pension fund was vested at 120%. A 20% surplus is a great cushion to help the town and protection for the people who might be retiring early or as necessary. Mayor Blake was then elected and promised every re-election that taxes were to stay the same and not increase in order to get re-elected, in my personal opinion. Due to the cost of living and price increases that happen in towns and throughout the state and country, that's totally almost impossible to do. The mayor left office 6 months before his term ended to take a state job and receive his pension. At that time, the pension fund was at 80% vested, 40% lost in those 10 years that he was the mayor. Where did the money go? Nobody knows. And if the problem here is that at that time, had the pension been kept at 80% vested, let's say the townspeople decide, hey, listen, I'm going to retire. We could actually go into financial crisis in the town of Milford because we wouldn't have enough money to pay for all these pensions. It's a shame that it happened, but it did. If a slight increase was added during Mayor Blake's term each year, we wouldn't have been in this situation that is present today, that we had to do a major tax increase, not a huge tax increase, but a substantial tax increase for this coming year. The situation, as was mentioned, when Rich Smith had taken over at the end of Mayor Blake's term, he said that in his final 6 months that he was there at the very end, he says that Mayor Blake should have done a slight tax increase because whoever takes over as the mayor coming up is going to be in serious trouble because they're going to be blamed for having to do a tax increase when they should not have been. The Republicans presented amendments to the Board of Finance, who does declare what the budget is for the 25 to 26 budget. But to help avoid major increases, but the majority board members rejected this and voted on the Board of Finance budget, which ultimately shows the large tax increase we, the citizens, are about to receive. Mr. Smith now, Rich Smith, I don't mean somebody else, Rich Smith, now in his mayoral campaign, because he is running for mayor, is blaming Mayor Giantasio for the tax increase after the majority Board of Democrats voted 8-7 against the Republicans' amendments to help to lower the taxes so we wouldn't have that huge tax increase. In my opinion, it's just something that should not have been done. Therefore, my friends, this is who is to really blame for Milford's tax increase. And we need to get the facts straight and decide. We've got to stop being political in these board meetings and things in that line and start thinking about the citizens of Milford and what they need to have done in order for them to survive and have a great living experience in the town of Milford. Their pocketbooks are getting affected by this. It's not a huge increase, but it's more than that was necessary. Had we done just a little bit each year, we wouldn't have had these problems. So it's something to think about this next coming election for the people of Milford to decide who should be running for any of the boards on any of these committees and who is actually looking for the benefit of the citizens of Milford as opposed to their political careers and things in that line. Thank you very much.
Would anybody else like to address the board at this time?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tracy Crutchfield. I live at 43 Cooper Ave in Milford. I have to reiterate what everybody's saying tonight about the tax increase. I have been a Milford resident, born and raised, and never left except for 6 months, and came back. I have watched this town change completely. I know that we've had COVID. I know that there's increases. I get that. I don't know how you guys expect a little person to survive in this town with another increase. Recently, I had to start taking care of my father and trust that I've learned a lot. So having to take care of him living out of state, I can't even move him here. I can't afford to house him. I don't have an extra room. And he cannot afford to live here in Connecticut or Milford for that matter. So I don't know where you guys expect these people who are on Social Security to come up with all this extra money. They're pinching every penny they have right now to pay their bills, get their groceries. What's happening in the state of Connecticut? They're all applying for elder care programs. The state is maxed out. Caseworkers are stressed to the max. I'm in the healthcare field, but this is their only option because they don't have money. And yet we still keep increasing the taxes. I think the thing that bothers me is I do feel like it was political. I think the Republicans came up with an idea and nobody wanted to touch it because it was a Republican. Now, had the Democrat come up with it, there might have been a different story. I have all the respect in the world for you guys. You don't get paid for this. You have to come here after a long day's work. I get it. I'm tired. I'd rather be sitting on my couch. I still have to go home, cook dinner, and do the laundry. I get it. But this is like out of control. We're shoving housing everywhere. That's a whole nother topic. I don't even want to get into that. But the tax increase is depressing, insulting, offensive. Everybody who can afford it, they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. But there's the rest of us that don't have the money for that. It can be used on other things. I don't know, maybe I'd like to retire someday. Probably not, but I would like to. But I see all my friends, parents, my own parents within my own family, they can't retire. They all have to have sub-jobs. How can that be? They worked their entire life and paid into everything. And now everybody just keeps throwing increase, the electric, everything. It's out of control. The cost in the grocery store is ridiculous. And then you guys slap another increase on us. Very sad, because I've always bragged about Milford to all my friends. And now I don't say anything because it's not what it used to be. Things have truly changed. And I think a lot has to change moving forward. But I do appreciate you. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the board? can do so at this time. Seeing none, we'll go on with the rest of the agenda. Agenda item number 3, Alderman Pacelli.
Consideration of minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Aldermen held on May 5th, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Agenda item number 4, consideration of minutes of a special organization meeting. There wasn't any. The next item on the agenda is Chairman's report and recommendations. Good evening, everyone. I wanted to announce that on this coming Sunday, June 8th, there will be a Fireman's Memorial Service on our Milford Green across from the Milford Bank at 1 p.m. We all honor those volunteer firemen that have lost their lives in the line of duty and also those who have passed away this past year. All 6 volunteer companies are represented there, and they stand there with their wreaths in front of the volunteer firemen's monument there on the green. All are welcome to attend. Also, I just wanted to remind everyone that Sunday, June 15th is Father's Day. And I wanted to wish all the fathers on the board and all the fathers out there a very happy Father's Day. That's all I have. Mr. Mayor, do you have a report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening. And I'd also like to wish all the fathers of the city, in the city of Milford, a happy Father's Day this coming Sunday. It's been a very busy, active past month, and moving forward, there's a lot of great things happening in Milford. I'd like to first thank Tom Jackson, the chairman of the Veterans Ceremony Parade Commission, on a wonderful, absolutely beautiful Memorial Day parade and wreath laying. We had a great turnout, and it's a big success, and I was happy to be part of it, and it was nice to see all the citizens out in Milford enjoying the day with their families. Earlier today, we participated in a flag-raising ceremony with Milford Pride at City Hall, and later this month, Friday, June 13th, we will join the Milford Juneteenth Committee for a ceremonial to display the Juneteenth flag at City Hall as well. We had a beautiful day today, and we're looking forward to Juneteenth as well. We also have some upcoming events that I'd like to mention in Milford this month. The annual Mary Taylor Fair on the Green will take place this weekend, June 6th and 7th. That's always a fun event. And of course, the one and only Milford United Way's Duck Race will take place on Saturday, June 7th, when we dump the ducks into the river, and that's a great event for the kids, and it raises money, and all the money goes back into the community. So I'll be looking forward to seeing people there. Also, the 23rd Milford Pirate Day is a great event. I will be captured by the pirates, and that'll take place on Sunday, June 8th. And the Milford Kickoff to Summer will take place on Saturday, June 21st. And that's when we have the fireworks and we kick off the summer, and that's really a outstanding event. And if it does rain, the rain date will be June 22nd. Also, the Milford Bank will host the Milford Moves 5K on Sunday, June 22nd at Listman Landing. And Milford Pride is having their 2nd annual festival, which will occur on Saturday, June 28th at the Green. And last Saturday, I had the privilege, along with City Clerk Pete Smith, to attend the Milford Fire Museum Committee and the Milford Historic Society collaborated to establish Milford's first inaugural fire museum, which is a great place. If you ever have the opportunity, I recommend that you visit. The museum houses over 187 years of Milford Fire Department history and offers guided tours upon request. Special appreciation I want to extend to the entire Milford Fire Museum Committee, and particularly former Fire Chief Lou LaVecchia and Bob Sukas. A big congratulations, this is exciting news, to the Foreign High School girls softball team on an impressive victory over Cheshire to become the SCC champs After the game, Abigail Corus was named the Danny Kemp Most Outstanding Player of the game for throwing a 3-hitter and 12 strikeouts. So they're undefeated, and we're looking forward to having them come to City Hall next month to offer them a proclamation. They truly deserve it. And earlier in May was the first Milford Welcome Squad event, which was hosted. A number of dedicated community members were there, led by my mother, Norma Giannatasio, and everyone worked for more than a year to create a group of people charged with welcoming new residents to the community. And last month, we hosted a social networking event for all the new residents to come to Listman Landing and to thank everyone and to welcome them to Milford. And there were some business owners there as well. And the week of May 18th commemorates the Emergency Medical Services Week, which I'd like to take a moment to honor and express my gratitude to the exceptional personnel at the Milford Fire Department. We are fortunate to have a Class 1 department, and several members of the Milford Fire Department team were recognized with EMS Week awards for their life savings actions and record response times, and they're truly saving lives. So congratulations to them, and nothing further, Mr. Chairman, just ask for your consideration for items 8A through 8D, and I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Agenda item number 7, unfinished business. Alderman Pacelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a board, we're going to have to consider taking action on a motion that was made on May 8th at the budget vote meeting. A motion was made, motion was seconded, discussion ensued, amendments were made, discussion ended, and a vote was about to be taken. When I had moved forward with passing over to Chairman Vitro in order to take that vote was stopped due to some considerations with the finance director wanting to address the mill rate. We went into recess, came back, and we worked on passing the ordinance, but the actual motion itself for the budget was not passed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read in the motion that was made with the amendments so that everyone understands what motion as amended was on the floor and was about to be voted upon. And it's my understanding that the vote now will be taken in order to sort of close the loop here with the open motion. So the motion that was made on May 8th, which was made by me and seconded by Alderman Beatty, was to approve the revenue and expenditures for the 2025-2026 City of Milford budget as recommended by the Board of Finance. The amendments that passed to go along with that motion and which are going to be voted upon today. At page 84, general fund expenditure, pension, fire, police, general account number 1005, 05998310, 529905, increase from $17,300,000 to $17,700,000 for a new subtotal of $35,157,107 and a department total of $35,186,507. Amendment number 2, page 84, general fund expenditure, self-insurance contribution account number 1005, 05998310, 529919, decrease from $10,790,713 to $10,301,299 for a new subtotal of $35,157,107 and a department total of $35,186,507. Amendment number 3, page 85, general fund expenditure, heart and hypertension claims account number 1005, 05998340, 524840, decrease from $900,000 to $750,000 for a new subtotal of $758,700 and a department total of $763,700. It's my understanding that we now need to take a vote on this matter.
Point of clarification, Mr. Chairman? Point of clarification, Mr. Chairman?
Alderman Smith.
I'm not sure I understand. We're voting on, we've already voted, you all voted to raise taxes already. You're saying we didn't have a budget? Is that what you're saying here?
You heard the explanation from Alderman Pacelli. That's exactly what we're voting on tonight. It's just a clarification because that particular was not voted on. It got passed away. With all the discussion, we accidentally missed it. So tonight we're going over that to make it all mean together.
So tonight we're actually voting on the budget? Is that what I understand?
I think we should defer to the city attorney. This was put on the agenda list. I'm just reading in what I've been told needs to happen. This is not something that I have initiated, although at the last meeting I did try and conclude the vote and was told that that couldn't happen, and that's why we had a recess and then went into the ordinance. And it seems, and I'll let Attorney Burcham explain further, but it seems as if something went out of order and we're trying to address that today.
Mr. Chair, what happened, the ordinance, the budget ordinance with the appropriations and revenue setting the mill rate was passed. There was no vote. There was a motion, second, and discussion. There was no vote taken on the budget, of which the ordinance that the Alderman passed was never enacted. So you need to close that loop.
Well, then I would ask Mr. Chairman, if that's the clarification, so it seems like we're back on the budget. The budget is back before this board. Is that my understanding?
No, Mr. Chair, through you, I don't believe the budget's back before you. The vote is before you, but the ordinance, which has a full force and effect of law, setting forth.
But the budget's back before you. We're voting on the budget.
Never voted on May 8th.
We never voted, so now we're voting on the budget.
Correct. And I would hope that you voted on the ordinance.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Well, I would urge this board then, it's rare you get a second chance in life. There was a mistake made and the taxes were raised in this city, and now you're getting a chance to undo that. And I hope that everyone will vote no on this budget, because if you vote yes, you're voting to raise taxes. And like I said, it's rare you get a chance to undo a mistake that you made, and now you're being given a chance to vote no on taxes. So I urge my colleagues to vote no on taxes, not to vote yes on taxes. Thank you.
We're taking this out to a vote. All in favor?
Mr. Chairman, we're not done. There's more questions.
There's no more discussion. This discussion was made on May 8th. The budget discussion is over. This tonight, we're just going to vote, like the city attorney has explained, to Alderman.
I have a question through you, Mr. Chair, to the city attorney. If we didn't vote on a budget, is the ordinance that we voted on, is that legal? We did seem to be doing it backwards, right? Or what's is the catch up?
Mr. Chair, through you, the ordinance is legal.
But we don't have a budget for the ordinance.
You set a mill rate.
So it's separate, completely separate.
You set a mill rate based upon
the budget, but we didn't vote for a budget.
The mill rate is set upon, as reflected in your proposed minutes, on the taxes to be raised of $228,177,914, total appropriation of $264,664,181. That's what Peter calculated the mill rate based upon the proposed budget, Board of Finance, with the amendments that were passed.
Right, but we didn't.
And that has the full force and effect of law.
So we didn't vote on the budget. So we are voting on the budget tonight with...
To mirror the ordinance that you did vote on.
Right, but does that say that there could be no more amendments to it? Nothing, there's no
Correct.
further discussion on it?
Well, the tax bills are being prepared, the mill rate has been submitted,
Oops, somebody made a mistake.
not somebody. The board didn't act on it.
And the control of the board, is that up to the... Thank you, no more further questions.
Mr. Chairman, we have amendments we would like to offer to take care of, to ameliorate the taxes that are now scheduled to be raised on the city, on the citizens of the city of Milford, that we would like to offer here this evening.
The discussions we had for the budget are, like I mentioned before, have passed. All that discussion was made on May 8th. Tonight, we're just, like the city attorney said, we're going to just vote the vote that was missing. But there's no more amendments. We already discussed all the budget.
Is that the ruling of the chair?
That's yes.
Well, then I would like to challenge the ruling of the chair that we can't offer amendments to decrease the taxes here in the city of Milford.
Mr. Chairman?
Alderman Healy.
I ask for a 5-minute recess.
We're on recess. meeting is back in service. Alderman Smith, you challenge the chairman. What's your challenge?
My challenge to the chair is that not all aldermen got the opportunity to speak on this matter, which is before the aldermanic board, and per our rules and the Roberts Rules of Order, they should be allowed to do so. You've ruled that they can't. I challenge that ruling.
There's a motion on the floor for challenge the chairman. Is there a second? Is there a second? There's a challenge and a second to challenge the chairman for what Alderman Smith had just read. All in favor? Opposed? Roll call vote, Madam Secretary,
What about
please.
a discussion? What about discussion on the motion?
No, there's no discussion.
Alderman Archiola?
No.
Alderman Beatty? Alderman Bevan?
Yes.
Alderman Casey?
Yes.
Alderman Federico?
No.
Alderman Fowler?
Yes.
Alderman Healy? Alderman Jenkins?
Yes.
Alderman Marlowe?
Yes.
Alderman Mulrennan?
No.
Alderman Pacelli?
No.
Alderman Smith?
Yes.
Alderman Vitro?
No.
Alderman Vitale?
Yes.
Alderman Willis?
No.
8 no, 7 yes.
8 no, 7 yes. The motion fails. We're voting on the motion that Alderman Pacelli made. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call vote, Madam Secretary, please.
Alderman Archiola?
Yes.
Alderman Beatty? Alderman Bevan?
No.
Alderman Casey?
No.
Alderman Federico?
Yes.
Alderman Fowler?
No.
Alderman Healy? Alderman Jenkins?
No.
Alderman Marlowe?
No.
Alderman Mulrennan? Alderman Pacelli?
Yes.
Alderman Smith?
On raising taxes, no.
Alderman Vitro?
Yes.
Alderman Vitale?
No.
Alderman Willis?
Yes.
8 yes, 7 no.
8 yes, 7 no. Motion passes. Alderman Pacelli, agenda item number 8A.
Agenda item 8A, Board of Aldermen approval is requested for the appointment of Kimberly Jenkins, 5 Mill Pond Close, as a member of the Animal Shelter Commission to fill the present vacancy, term to expire 12/31/29.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Is Kimberly Jenkins here tonight? Yes, she is. Would you like to come up and be sworn in by our city clerk, please?
Do you solemnly swear and sincerely affirm that you will faithfully execute and discharge the duties and responsibilities according to the laws and member of the Animal Shelter Commission of the City of Milford to the best of your ability, so help you God, or upon the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Jensen. Alderman Pacelli, agenda item 8B.
Agenda item 8B, Board of Aldermen approval is requested pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 8-24, in the approval from the Planning and Zoning Board for the construction of a new city building for the Milford Health Department, and to authorize the mayor and city attorney to take all steps necessary to effectuate said approval, including signing all documents.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I see that the health director's in the audience and our public works director. I have a couple of questions for each of you, if you could approach. Appreciate it. I guess our director didn't hear.
Good evening.
Hi, Dee.
Hi.
Just a couple of questions. Can you tell me at this particular point what the total cost of the project would be?
So we estimate it is likely between 5 and 10 million. We don't have an estimate, we don't have a true cost because we need this approval in order to move forward with the next steps in this project to really go through a design engineering phase to determine exact costs.
Okay. The other thing is, how much do we have in ARPA monies?
4.9 million.
4.9?
4.9.
Now, do that money need to be encumbered by a certain date?
So the ARPA funds we have to expend them by December 31st, 2026. So there is a time period on that is urgent.
Did you say 26?
2026, December
Okay.
31st, 2026.
And so are they not already encumbered because of the design that has been put forward? Don't we have to pay for that design?
No, so what you have in your packet is really just a conceptual plan. What has been done through this board is that a few months ago, there was a memorandum of understanding that was approved by this board to obligate the funds to this project. So that might have been in March or April. And so the funds are obligated towards the building of a Health and Human Services
So the
building.
funds, the ARPA funds, we've already done our due diligence with the ARPA funds and that we have them because we already had to pay something out?
I will defer to Attorney Bertram.
Mr. Chair, through to Alderman Vitale. So this board approved an interagency memorandum of understanding, I believe in December, before the expiration of the timeline to obligate the funds to give 2 additional years. So the funds are still there. They must be obligated by the end of 2027. Six. Apologize.
So what are the criteria to obligate them?
To go under contract.
So we have not entered a contract at this point?
No, we have no.
So all these renderings and whatever were no charge to anything? The site plan and the rendering? Did we not have to pay for that?
Not the ARPA funds.
Yeah, if I may interject to just give a little history on this project. This project began when ARPA funds came into the city of Milford. And as part of that process, the ARPA committee determined that there was going to be an allocation towards a site needs assessment and selection process. So there were ARPA funds allocated towards that process, and we had a third party come in and review the Health Department and Human Services' current workflow and needs and evaluate our existing sites, which right now we operate out of basically 3 sites comprising about 11,700 square feet. Based on the needs assessment, it was determined that the space that we actually need for Health and Human Services to run efficiently and effectively is 28,900 square feet. So 2.5 times the space that we have right now between our 3 spaces. So the funds that were allocated towards that needs assessment and site selection process, where we looked at a number of sites, including Siemens Lane, the Academy site, 90 New Haven Avenue, which is where Bethel currently exists next door to where we are, as well as the Wasson lot that we are discussing tonight. And based on that assessment is how we came to the site plan that we have today, as well as the determination that Wasson was really the best site.
I guess what I'm getting at is that we're safe with the ARPA funds because did we do anything with that money at this point?
No, we have not. We have not utilized the money for the building. No, we have not entered into contract.
Okay. So we have until 26 to do whatever we need to do. Okay, thank you. Chris, I just wanted to ask you a question on the not the renderings, but the site plan. I guess the building is 135 feet long and about 30, what is that? I can't even read it. 60? Is it 60
Yeah,
feet
60.
wide?
It's a conceptual plan.
Right. So my idea is, or not a proposal or anything, but an idea that that building, could it not be parallel to the condos that are there?
You could locate it any way you want. We believe that the present location gives better flow, traffic flow, and also flow for operational activity inside the building.
You know, see, I'm not against the building, but when you come down West River Street, you see 135 feet of building there, kind of closes everything down. Everything in the city seems to be closing in on us. I mean, when you go down West River, you see the open field, it's a good look. So rather than taking the 135 feet down West River, it would only be 60 odd feet width, or is it the 60? Yeah, 60 odd feet width and only 60 feet going by on West River. I have no problem with it there. I have a problem with it being almost dumped in the middle of the parking lot. I know it's not the middle of the parking lot, but the issue is that I think if it went parallel to the condos, I think it would be a more aesthetic and pleasing look.
The building size is similar to the building which is directly across the street. And as we spoke today about it, the building across the street is only 2 stories. This is a 3-story building. But we're trying to give a New England character to the building. And everyone has an opinion. I'll disagree a little bit with yours. I don't think it's going to close down the area. We can shrink it down a little bit if we need to and make it a little wider. But the way the flow, the traffic flow, and everyone that looks at the plot plan shows, there was a thought process working with the health department and trying to figure out what's the best flow both with personnel and also with vehicles. And God forbid if we ever have an area where we have to have mass vaccinations again, we want a queuing section for cars, and that's why it works here. If I do it the other way, and I explained to you today, Ray, was that then we would literally have to take down the old concession stand, the bathrooms, and we'd go farther into the field, and it would make a more challenging for mass cars. So
I know it might be a little bit of an inconvenience, but the fact is we also heard that there are many events that take place on that parking lot. You get ready for parades, you get, the ball field, whatever it is, but it is well used. My concern is not using up the parking spaces. It's just that building, the 3-floor building, the 160 feet long building that goes, or 135 feet long building that goes on West Main Street, just kind of is a blockage to what you see, the feels. The concern I have is more aesthetic, and I think what we can do is always reroute or reconfigure flow of traffic within that section of parking and whatever it means. We can always do something there, to make it more feasible. But I know we need a building, and that's a site that has been chosen. I personally would just like to see, I don't know how many agree with me, but would like to see that parallel to the condos. Thank you.
Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To Director Saley, in consideration of this, we've heard some testimony tonight concerns about parking, and the board had received some information about the possibility of parking and some type of a lease agreement with the church, which we found out this evening. Apparently, we can't rely on that information right now, but was there a consideration for parking garage adjacent to this building at the same time as this construction is taking place?
So we considered actually doing parking underneath the garages. I just want to be clear though, the way the new configuration of the parking works, there's a loss of about 25 parking spaces. With that said, and if anyone drives by today, we took the opportunity to go onto the ball field and cut back a lot of the invasives that were approaching into the ball field. And you'll see there's a location behind the fence, which is a temporary fence. We're going to make it a permanent fence at the Wasson Park or the Wasson Field. And there's a location there that can fit up to 60 cars. So actually, once this project's done, there's going to be a net gain of probably 30 cars easily in that location. Now, I want to be clear, it's not a paved parking lot. It's going to be a grass area, like when you go to festivals and you park in a grass area. It's a dual use type of thing during peak overflow. I've been watching that because I knew this was going to become an issue with parking. I've been watching that parking lot during every event that we've had. Now, granted, they had a downtown business event where the whole parking lot was full, and still people made it work with parking along the streets. The property down here that's going to open up with 120 parking spaces, which is within a quarter mile of the location. The extra parking we're going to have, we've had a good relationship with the church where we use parking there, and we've done some things for them. They've done some things for us by allowing us to use it, but we don't have a lease for that. But at the end of the day, the parking is actually going to increase with this layout.
Well, again, it's a health facility that's going to be there. It's a combined facility. It's going to be operationally better, but looking at it from a parking standpoint, some people might say if we have another pandemic or a medical emergency situation, Doctor, do we have a contingency plan to utilize other facilities that are owned by the city, such as converting a school for temporary type of vaccination facilities, and that you wouldn't be inundated in one physical location if there was that type of an emergency?
So we don't have a plan right now for another city building, and I will share that when we were in a public health emergency and when the pandemic hit and we were looking for where we could go, it was very difficult to find a location that would be able to manage the mass numbers that we were managing, and we ended up at the Parsons Gym, where we were seeing between 800 and 900 individuals a day at our peak for several months, really. And so we were not at the time where Parsons Gym needed to go back to being utilized for recreational purposes, and we looked at other city buildings. There was no other location that we could utilize that would meet the requirements and be able to handle that kind of volume. In particular, school buildings were not an option at the time. We tried to do, and I'll share part of the reason for the need for this building is that and I invite all of you to come by 82 New Haven Avenue if you have not been there to see where we are right now. We have an 8x12 clinic room, and so we simply don't have the capacity. Forget about mass clinics, just even sometimes our monthly clinics, we have no space. And so we have often had to take our show in the road and split it up into many locations to try to get to everyone who needs the services. And so this building allows the opportunity to be more accessible, to have it in one location, and the design that we've come up with really allows for, and what Director Saley I think was referring to is actually a drive-through model where we would be able to really have a high throughput of getting people through in their cars, in and out, and keep things moving. And we just don't have anywhere near that capacity at this time.
Director Saley, can you put in this a consideration relative to a 2 or 3 story parking garage? The building's 3 stories in and of itself. So in a specific area adjacent to the building, then when we're talking about it being utilized for the ball game, or we're talking about it being used to stable and stage and parades and other events, you'd be inside a parking garage possibly, and it just would increase overall parking. But did you know what the cost factor would be? Has that been considered at all with this project?
Well, when we looked at the parking component of this, we believe that our new parking plan increases parking by 30 parking spaces at least. It's actually going to be a little bit more. Plus, with Bob Smith's property, that's 120. That's 150 extra parking spaces. That's peak demand. An average parking garage, back in the day, it was 10,000. Now they're saying it's between 15 and 25,000 a parking space. I personally don't believe you need it. I think there's plenty of parking. There's plenty of parking on West River. There's plenty of parking on West Main. There's parking behind the gym. We do. It just, I hate to say it, we just have to learn to walk a little bit. People are used, they want to see the door and walk in. Maybe that won't happen. But in the year and a half that I've been here, I haven't had one time where I said, wow, we don't have enough parking down here. And that's with us at our present parking level, and we're going to increase that parking with this plan.
I bring that up because it's an integral part of the discussion. And the building itself the healthcare facility, and it will be the magnet for anything that comes out through the doctor's office relative to any type of medical emergency that the city faces, a pandemic or whatever. We have Simon Lake School that was converted to a police academy. There's other facilities that the city has. So that would be part of the all-hazard comprehensive planning, so that if we do face this type of a pandemic again, that we designate certain buildings that we do have to switch over for those operational uses, so that this building, the public perception is currently, absolutely you need a new facility. But parking is an important factor, and I'm just trying to, weigh through this. And then if there is an emergency and you're inundated, that there are opportunities. Because, when we look at facilities that the city owns, I looked at it, there's a 36-page report of all city properties that are owned by this municipality, and there's multiple structures that could augment your needs. So thank you for your comments.
Thanks.
Alderman Federico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to the directors. I just want to ask again about, first of all, I'm completely in support of the building, and I understand and agree with all the speakers that the health department needs this space. I am a little puzzled by the location, and I want to understand more about the parking, because this building is going to have staff in it on a daily basis, right? So how many cars are you accounting for that will be added to this parking lot from the building?
I'll let Deepa answer that question.
Yeah, so we have about 15 staff that are regularly between Human Services and the Health Department.
Okay, and what do you anticipate for visitors that come to the building?
So I would say probably at least another on a day-to-day basis. At any given time, another 10 spaces simultaneously, but kind of on and off throughout the day.
Okay. Okay, so with your plus 30 spaces, then you're back to kind of about even. Right, with Director Saley said it's plus 30 spaces, and you've just said you've got probably will be using about 25 spaces.
I will add, just again, as Director Saley mentioned, we've really been watching the parking over at the lot when we went through this needs assessment process and looked at these different sites. And what I will also add to the conversation is that typically those events and games or what have you that happen are typically after business hours. So our 15, 20, 30 cars typically are not there on the weekends and the evenings when the majority of these events occur.
Okay, all right, thank you. I did have one more question. Can you just, for the sake of the public, because someone asked earlier, can you talk through the other locations that were considered and why this one works better than those?
Sure. So one was 55 Siemens Lane, so that is currently the fire department emergency management facility. And we do have basically a warehouse space right now where we store a number of our supplies. We have 2 trailers that house a lot of our supplies for shelter operations, et cetera. So we looked at that site. The primary reason that site did not work is because it would require us to raise the building and have parking underneath, which would really make it inaccessible to vulnerable populations, of which we have a number that utilize our services. And in addition to that, the fire department does use that facility for training purposes. So often they're training with motor vehicle crashes and different things. So there was a safety concern with that location. We also looked at the Academy site where Human Services is currently located at 150 Gulf Street. We looked at that site. On that site, we would not be able to consolidate into one building. There would have to be 2 buildings, of which The existing Human Services building at 150 Gulf Street would need to be renovated and updated, and then there would be an additional building sort of in front of that, the playground over there. And then we would need, if we wanted to have this drive-through mass vaccination capacity, another third smaller outbuilding in order to do everything that we need to do. And there were also some flooding concerns in that location due to being close to a flood zone. 90 New Haven Avenue, which is where Bethel currently sits, two major issues. One being that while I think everybody is aware that Bethel is looking to move to another location, that will not happen by the time the ARPA funds expire. So that timing is a concern, but moreover, even if we combine both parcels, it's still too small to be able to meet the needs of the building as well as the parking, and there is concern about additional traffic and congestion if we wouldn't be able to use that site for mass clinics because it would just be a traffic issue on New Haven Avenue. And then the final site was the Wasson lot, which we're talking about today, which really allows us to consolidate both Health and Human Services into one department, bring, I think, one of the things we don't always talk about, we know that the health department works in the space of public health and medical emergencies, but we are also very involved in the city's emergency response. We are in a storm situation. We manage and operate the evacuation shelter for the city, so we have cots and all sorts of things that we have. And so that location at Wasson just allows us to be able to consolidate all of those functions into one area, and it makes our services accessible. Being right near Parsons is really helpful for our environmental health division, is really the enforcement and regulatory arm of our department. And so right now, business owners, establishment owners are going to Parsons and then having to come to the health department in order to get sign-offs. This will put us closer to Parsons for our permitting processes. And so it really just makes us more accessible, and of course, putting Human Services in the same building as the Public Health Department, there's often overlay in what our residents need in terms of public health and social services, so being able to provide a one-stop shop really just makes everything more accessible to our residents.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Bevan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to whoever. As I'm reading what we're voting on tonight is consideration of a new city building. Nowhere's in what we're voting on says where it's going to go. So before I vote on this item, am I voting just to build the building and a site to be determined after? Or am I voting for the new building to go as presented in one of the two pictures?
I would let the city attorney answer that question. I believe it's at the Wasson parking lot, but let it.
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Bevan, what's before you is the 824 approval as referred to by the Planning and Zoning, which is for the Wasson parking lot. The 824 is the citing, the improvements to be made at the proposed site.
So I will be voting.
This is a location vote.
It's a location and the building, both together.
The building is being funded through the ARPA funds.
Well, I understand that, but the way I'm reading it, it just says construction of a new city building. It doesn't say to be located at any location. So my question is just, I am voting on the new building and the location in this parking lot.
Correct.
To which Mr. Saley said it could be moved in different parts of this parking lot if it was available.
Yes, but I would answer that, and Alderman Vitale and I have a different opinion, which is fine. We had civil engineers look at this. They asked about how we got it designed. We looked at different locations, different spots, trying to keep it as far away from the ball field as possible for balls, foul balls, and we felt this was the ideal location. Plus, as Deepa was speaking, the synergies of putting them all together, but having everything on one floor for mass vaccinations and having people that are less vulnerable or more vulnerable be able to come in and walk right into the building. So that's why we felt it was the best location.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney and the directors. I do like the motion to build a new building. I'm not really hot about where it's set up to be. And I've heard of the locations that you've looked at and they were not the right fit for you. And this seems to be, might be the right fit, but I don't like that, where you are designing to put it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Beatty.
Thank you, Chairman Petro, through you to Deepa. I'm very much in favor of the new building. I understand the need. I served with Alderman Vitale, Alderman Mulrennan on the Department of Health. I know the growth needs and the consolidation of Health and Human Services and all of that. And I also respect Joan Canginello for her knowledge and expertise in this. I just wanted to say, and I'm struggling with this, when we hear public testimony, it's not our role to respond to it, but we do listen to it. So I guess I have some questions like Alderman Bevan. I'm for it, in essence, listen to you. I know that you've done your due diligence, but there have been concerns brought up about parking. I guess I'm asking about process. When are those considered, or we just not consider testimony at this late date, or wait and reconsider this when we have those answers? I'm really not quite sure. I'm asking you, after serving as an alderman for many years, that
Sure.
still is a question.
Thank you.
So a big yes, but
As far as the parking, that is a consideration that was looked at in all of these, the 4 sites that I mentioned, and definitely for the Wasson lot. And we believe, just based off of Director Saley's comments earlier, that that we will have sufficient parking, even with the loss of the 25 spaces, that the additional spaces towards the area where Director Saley was speaking to, that we would make up that loss. And again, as I mentioned earlier, you know, our operation, barring an emergency where we're running 24/7, is really, you know, a business hours operation. So we would anticipate that, you know, our staff cars will not be there for the most part when events are running on evenings and weekends and times like that.
And one further, because Mr. Saley mentioned that, you know, there's some informal gentleman's agreement with the church, and yet there was some question, there is no lease. Does there need to be a signed agreement about that? Can that go forward in good faith?
So it's one of the things we're looking at. I know people keep bringing up this parking, but an example, we've looked at this for over a year and a half. Peak events, slow events. The idea is, as Deepa was speaking, when her department's open 8 to 5, 8 to 6, that's typically when there's not a lot of traffic. The ball fields start at 5. Just like they do down at Fowler, there's a little bit of overlap, but we've seen no issue where there has not been enough parking in that area. There's also approximately 10 city/Board of Ed vehicles that park there on a regular basis. They're going to be moved as part of this process to the Harborside area. There's a ton of parking at Harborside. That's the other thing we did. We walked through Harborside, the parking area. There's like about 40 extra parking spaces that are never used, and I'm not talking right next to the school, the parking lot in close proximity to the ball fields. So there's plenty of parking in this area. People are going to have to, you know, the hardest thing in my job is trying to impress upon people change, and people hate change, and they always want to put a roadblock. The parking is not going to be an issue with this project. I can guarantee you that. We have plenty of it.
And there is a mechanism to direct employees, either of the Board of Ed or the Health Department, as to where they should park, and leave it for the users of the services. So that's,
Correct. We've also looked, there's an area, and we're not advocating this, but there's another area right outside where the superintendent's office used to be, that we believe there's an opportunity to do some parking in that spot. So we feel very comfortable with the parking, the present parking configuration, where we're going to be, and just how we're going to use the building. So it's not going to be everyone all at once. We're going to overlap and we're going to manage that.
Alderman Casey.
Thank you. Through the chair, Director Sealy. So I want to follow up on earlier you mentioned like expansive parking at like the Wasson Field. So that's the, but it will not be paved. Is that extension of the field, like right field or like?
So no, it's an area, if you drive by there now, we cut it back. It goes right to the original fence. There's anywhere between 50 and 60 feet between the new temporary fence to the old football fence. And it used to be a dual field. We checked with Recreation to make sure that, hey, we're going to put a permanent fence in there for the ball field, for the home run fence. And then behind that area is where we believe there's plenty of parking for excess during peak times. And this is only during peak times, which happen 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 times a year. We had an event there recently where they had almost 500 people in the auditorium. There was no one parked on River Street. Trust me, there's plenty of parking.
So it would be like not convenient, but behind, you know, the old football field. It's not. Yeah. Okay. So
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So but it will not be paid, but it will be like welcoming, and you know, people can park there.
Yes, we'll have a gated component to it so people can get out and see it, and it'll be just like when you're going to a festival, sometimes you park on a grass area. It's not going to be used on a regular basis. I anticipate it being used probably 4 or 5 times a year, if that. I believe that once the field, the biggest time is during construction. We'll have some push on that because obviously the construction is going to take up a decent amount of the area. But once that's done, there's going to be plenty of parking. And again, we anticipate Bob Smith's property opening up, which is 120 parking spaces.
And when do you anticipate the completion date?
Well, we have to get it done by December of 2026, so we're on a tight timeline. We have, like we did borings already. We already know that the soils underneath are fine. The next step, if this gets approved by this board, is to go out with a design company and actually do the design. We anticipate that to be 2 to 3 months, and then we'll go out to bid.
Okay, now obviously, now we approve it, it will be consolidated of Human Services and Department of Health, right? And then what's going to happen of the, you know, I don't know if I should ask that, or you can ask the mayor, but what's anticipated of the unused space now, the former Department of Health and the Health and Human Services?
So I would throw that back to you guys as the Aldermanic Board and the mayor working together and figure out what you'd like to do with it. I know there's been some discussions with the fire station. Will there be an expansion in that area? But that's up to this group.
But we both own the former locations or the current locations?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Alderman Jenkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to our directors. I've got a couple of questions here that I've jotted down since everybody started talking, but I have some others that I had planned. So there are no current plans for this at this point. This has not, I mean, we have a schematic and we have an artist's rendering, but there are no plans for this building at this time.
So originally we were going to do a design build on the project, and we were going to take the conceptual plans with the layout and put bid specs in and do a design build. After talking with the city attorney's office and talking with the ARPA group as a whole, we felt that that wasn't the way to go. That's why we've pivoted. We were ready, prepared to actually do a design build the moment you guys approve. So it's a little bit of a delay. They've decided that it would be in our best interest to have a full set of plans.
Okay, so we've got, from this point moving forward, about a year and a half before you have to go to contract on this in order to secure those funds, right? You're required by December of 2026. So where does the estimate of 5 to 10 million for this come into play, and how do we know that that is anywhere near accurate?
So if you use $220 a square foot on the building, it's 5.2 million. FF&E can change, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, just so everyone knows what it means. And we have a contingency plan on that. The contingency plan is, right now, she has round numbers 11 or 12,000 square feet. If we do 2 levels of that building, it'll be 16,000, and maybe we leave the 3rd level unfinished. And then we'll probably be coming back before the board when we get to that. We don't know where costs truthfully are gonna be. I don't believe it's gonna be 10 million. I think all in it's gonna be somewhere in about 7. But right now we have 4.9, and that's what I wanna make sure we spend before.
But we have no idea. I mean, this is a whack.
Well, I will disagree with that assessment on it, if that is a whack. Listen, I know what things can cost. It depends. You can have a Maserati or you can have a Hyundai. So it depends on where we get into all that. Energy systems, energy recovery systems, what we're using for outside siding, you know, do we want more decorative things? There's things that come into play with all that. And we're gonna make that decision on the budget.
Okay, so, and I guess that's part of where my concern is going with this. If we don't have to really begin this project for a year and a half.
No, I wanna make sure you're clear. We have to spend it in a year and a half. We can't begin it.
I thought you had to go to contract by a year and a half.
No, we have to expend the funds by December 31st, 2026.
So that could be breaking ground and you spend the funds for something along those lines, correct? So that doesn't mean the project is complete.
No, my understanding, and I'll let Attorney Burcham, we have to sign checks and they have to, and you can't prepay people. It has to be work done.
So I guess I'm going to divert that next question to our city attorney. If a foundation is dug and poured and those funds are spent on that, that would qualify for the utilization of those funds. The project certainly does not have to be completed at that time.
We have approximately $5 million in ARPA funds. So we have until December 31st, 2026 to spend that.
Okay.
We spend, as the bills come in, we spend it. If there's money left over, then we have a chance of losing it. So if the foundation is one price, correct, we pay for it. But if they still have 2 floors to go, and we haven't spent it by that time, then there's an issue.
Okay. So the unknowns are what scare me here because we don't know, if we don't have any plans, we don't know how long this is going to take to build out. We don't know what costs are going to be. Our fire department has been out of the place for a year. They've been out for more than a year. They were supposed to be in a year ago. So I don't like the unknowns here that are going on. I have other concerns with what you said about the parking area behind the building because that's a flood area. I know that area back there in the evasive shrubbery there gets very wet, and I don't know once paved how much that's going to accumulate.
So, I don't mean to interrupt. I want to make sure we are not paving that back area. It's strictly for overflow. It's going to always be a grassy area.
Okay.
And you are correct. There are a section that's light, but we, outside of that area, we believe I can put 50 to 60 cars there.
Okay, so my next concern with that is the ball fields and their utilization. You have high school players, virtually adults, hitting balls. Foul balls travel a long way. Home runs travel a long way. What is going to be the cost of repairs to the building, for glass broken, to vehicles, for balls hit? That is I played on that field. It's home runs and foul balls get hit out there.
So we've taken that into consideration. The glass that fronts the building will be impact resistant glass. Anyone that's familiar with that, it will sustain up to 140-mile-an-hour projectile hitting it without breaking it. We're more than likely going to be using a hardy board as an exterior, which is very resistant to that type of damage. I feel pretty comfortable, especially the distance and where we're locating the field. The building. You know, we've looked at all these issues.
I'm glad to hear.
Yeah, I want to respond to something you said because it's something that frustrates me. The fire department, it has been a year, and some of it has been our response, but it's also because of the requirements that were put in front of us that we did. And that project is going to save the city probably $800,000 when we're all said and done. So I just want to make sure we're clear.
I can appreciate that. It's the unknown. It's the unknown that we're signing off on here that I don't like. 2 more questions and then I will yield. The first of which is that I don't believe games during the season start at 5 p.m. I think they're 3 o'clock starts. So that would be in the middle of the working hours. There would still be vehicles from workers and users of the facility, as well as buses and or vehicles at those field locations that would be taking up spaces. So I'm hesitant to say you're gaining spaces versus losing, because I think you're going to run into a bit of an overflow there at 3 to 5 p.m.
Yeah, so I'll respond to that. West Main is an extremely wide road, plenty of on-street parking. We have to change some people around, and you're right, there could be a pinch point. I don't believe once construction is done, you're going to have that pinch point. We've looked at the ball games. Now, if they're having a special event, like a tournament, typically those are Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays, they're not going to be there. But along also, after a certain point, from 3 to 5, you're saying there might be a pinch point, there's still going to be plenty of parking in that area. I believe that.
If I could just add one more thing. City employees are very accustomed to also, when there are events that happen, being asked to move our cars in order to accommodate the event, and often it's the city employees that are walking a bit further in order to free up spaces. And I'll tell you, even at the health department now, we have a serious parking problem, and I am often asking staff to park over at the library, or we call over to the Elks and ask them to borrow to make space for residents to have easier access. So that is something that happens now, and I would anticipate if there's a game at 3 or what have you, that we will be able to make it work. I think the knowns here, to just respond to your comments, the knowns are that we have almost $5 million allocated towards this project, and I would venture to say that the ARPA money that came to the city of Milford and the intent of ARPA money, this project is the project that really meets the intent of that funding. And so we know we have this money, we know we're going to lose it, and we will likely never get it back. So that is a known. We know that the Health Department and Human Services needs at least 2.5 times the space that we currently have. And we know that based on the best due diligence we could do, anticipating the questions that you all have wisely asked about parking, about events, about all these things, that this really is the best location that we have at this point in time. So I think that while I will admit there are definitely some unknowns, but there are a lot of knowns, and the biggest one to me is that we have this funding. It's been obligated to this purpose. It's a need for this community, and ultimately we want to be able to serve this community more efficiently and be able to expand our services and serve the 4-month-old to the 105-year-old that we served this past year.
I certainly recognize that it is a necessity. I hugely appreciate the willingness to allow parking availability to our residents. I think it makes our city look good. I think it's doing the right thing, and I hope that our residents appreciate it. The last question that I have is definitely not going to be an easy one to ask. With the potential long-range plan that our superintendent has put out, there may be school buildings available. Is it, and has it been discussed whether this can be put into a move into a building that is going to be altered, changed, or closed?
We have really been on the ARPA timeline, knowing when those funds need to be expended by. And so we have not considered moving into a school building because we are not aware of one that will be available by December 31st, 2026. So it hasn't really been a discussion. That being said, as I mentioned before, when we have been in need of larger spaces, we have looked at schools, we have looked at, I know Simon Lake was referenced, we've looked at Egan, we've looked at, the list of sites both owned by the city and even privately owned that we've looked at is fairly long, but that's how I can answer that question.
Thank you.
Alderman Marlowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Hi, Deepa. Hi, Director Saley. Just one for clarification. When I read the capital improvement plan, I saw that the ARPA funding was 3.5, not 4 point something. When did that change?
So what happened was they consolidated a lot of the funds that weren't used, and it all went into the health clinic, but you're correct, it was 3.2, and now I believe it's 4.9. So any money that wasn't spent on any of the other accounts, and I believe it was 30 or 31 million total, this was what's left.
Okay, and I saw that the estimated cost was 11 million in the capital improvement plan, and I know that's an estimate. But I guess my questions would be along with that is, first of all, I think there's two things here. One is there a need? And I would say, and I would think I agree with everyone that there is a need here. I think the second question that we're somewhat struggling with, well, some of us anyway, is this the location for it? And I feel a little, it's tough because we don't have plans, you know, that I see conceptually here. And,
yes.
You know, but is the building really, we're approving this, but is the building going to go here, or is it going to turn, or is it going to move back? We don't know what that is, and we're sort of just trying to make a decision based on a conceptual plan. And that's, I think, where I'm struggling with this because of the parking. And the other question I have would be is, I know, you know, Chris, you and I have worked on things
yes.
together, and I'm thinking that, you know, the square foot price is probably, I was going to say 250 to 275, but I just need to know also with that, does that price include all the site improvements that we're talking about here, or is that just the cost of building?
So we anticipate when we go out to bid that we will take some of that as an ad alternate in the contract. So I know Scott understands that. It's just, I don't want to talk simple, but it just means that we're going to put like a menu on this bid. And one of the things we will be looking at is site work, because we think we bring true value to the city with some of the site work we can do internally with our city employees, along with some of the electrical work that we can do, some of the plumbing work we can do. I'm not advocating that. Our goal is to have this done as one solid piece, but depending on where the prices come in, and Alderman Jenkins, you're right, it could be extremely high. We seem like the construction market is slowing a little bit, so we're hoping that we're getting a good niche. And Scott, you're correct. Between I'll say 220 and 300 is probably the number. And the contingency plan is number one, that we can do some of the work and offset some of the savings. But the other part is we can actually finish the exterior of the building, put the siding, the windows, the heating and cooling, and maybe not finish a whole floor, and we'll grow into that floor. It'll be a better circumstance. I'm very confident with that. Again, getting back to the parking, because the parking was another big issue. If anyone drives behind the gym on a regular basis, you'll see the amount of Board of Ed vehicles that are parked there. We're going to be working with the Board of Ed to move those vehicles over to Harborside, because there's a ton of parking over there, and it's literally a walking distance away. So the parking, and I just want to put it to bed, hopefully for the final time, is we're going to increase parking by managing it more appropriately.
Thank you.
Alderman Baselli.
Thank you, Chairman Vitro. Through you to the city attorney, actually. As I'm listening to the presentation and some of the questions asked, I'm struggling a bit with, again, I think what it is we're actually approving today. This is an 8-24 approval. However, if we approve this, based on what I'm hearing, does that just allow money to be spent towards a feasibility study for which we may or may not find that what was being proposed will be moved or not moved? Or at that point, once we approve this, whatever someone decides is in the best interest of the city for purposes of building this building will happen? In other words, it doesn't come back before us again or planning and zoning again. It's just the project goes forward and they do their feasibility work, and then something may change at some point in the future, or because this is an approval of what was, or revisiting an approval that was already obtained at planning and zoning. What was approved on that plan and was viewed is what is going to happen. The uncertainty is just related to the cost. I'm just a little bit confused by that.
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Pacelli, I'm somewhat confused. There are multiple questions. Let me just say, this is not a feasibility. The feasibility's been done in terms of the space needs of the health department. What's before you is an 824 to site it in the Lawson parking lot. If you look at the schematic, that shows you where the health department is proposing. So 824 is improvement of public space to site it. There will not be planning and zoning because the city is exempt from zoning.
Right, but the planning and zoning also reviewed it as an 824 prior to.
For siting. I mean, not site plan, but for its location.
Correct.
As part of the 824 process, there needs to be referral from planning and zoning.
Right. Maybe I'm not being clear. So we're approving a building of some size and some sort in that location, giving that entire location available to the city to determine what is in the best interest of the city, or is what's being approved using the space and it will have to be within a particular footprint as set forth on this plan? I'm just trying to understand.
Correct.
I think
It's
we're all
an
asking a lot of the same
8,100
questions.
square foot footprint.
That'll be right where this says it will be.
Correct.
Unless and until someone proposes a change, in which case it may go back to
The
everybody
approval
for
is
8-24.
in its location, I guess, up against West Main Street. Correct. As shown. That's your approval, or that would be your approval. In terms
Understood.
of process, what would happen if this board approved this 824? City would then go out to, would send out proposals to architects for design, try to get a true design. We'd get a true design, we just have schematics, and then we would send out to RFP for the construction of it.
And then where would the final decision be when the number that comes back is maybe objectionable to whomever? At what point then, and who makes decisions, say, we're going to take this out or that out? It'll still be the same building, but we're not going to have this bell and whistle or that bell and whistle to address some of the concerns here for the various costs that could arise out of the project. That's still a little bit of an unknown.
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Pacelli, we know how much money we have. If the construction costs come out far in excess, then we have decisions to make, whether they be through some value engineering to fit it within that number, or it comes back before this board to cover any shortfall through another funding mechanism. We know there's $5 million. I'll defer to the Director Saley in terms of best estimates, but we are contemplating those contingencies in terms of value engineering potential, things of that nature to fit it within the funds allocated, designated for this project. But we have not gone out to bid because we don't have a site approval yet.
So, just through you to Attorney Bertram, if this goes out to bid, comes back at numbers that we're talking about in excess of $5 million, the city still wishes to go forward with the project with a number that's acceptable to the administration, we'll say, then it'll be back before us again to address how to fund any amounts in excess of $5 million or $4.9 million, which are the ARPA funds.
We won't sign a contract in excess of what we have money for. Hypothetically, if the bids come in at $7 million, then we either come back to this board to figure out the shortfall, or the project is scrapped. But we're not going to sign a contract in excess of the money that we have.
Okay, through you to Attorney Bertram. So then it either fits within the grant, the ARPA funds, or it comes back for, I'll call it reconsideration or consideration as to how to fund it beyond the funds that are available.
Absolutely.
And if I could jump on that a little bit, we anticipate talking with the contractors when we go out to bid and discussing the opportunities. If things are too high, how we'll adjust the building. It could shrink a little bit to save some cost values. But I think Attorney Bertram's correct. We can value engineer this on a number of ways. So again, we feel pretty comfortable that the numbers that we have, we will get the building built. We might not finish it in its entirety, but we think we'll get the building built and get deeper in the building.
One more question, if I may, Mr. Chairman, through you. How long do we anticipate it would take if the green light today happens before we have hard numbers in front of us? I don't know that I heard that date, and if I did, I don't recall.
So we anticipate 2 to 3 months for the final design, and then we would go out to bid immediately after that. We figure probably 3 weeks for that, and then obviously some discussions. We are on a tight timeline. There's no two ways about it.
Okay, thank you for answering all my questions. Very helpful. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Smith.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions for the directors. But listening to this discussion here tonight, I am really horrified at the way this city considers spending money. We've heard numbers thrown around here tonight. Maybe it's 5 million, maybe it's 10 million, maybe it's 11 million. I've been involved in enough government contracts to know that it's not going to come in on the low side. It's likely to come in on the much higher side. And this train is leaving the station, and we're about to couple ourselves up to it. And the city of Milford is going to get stuck with the difference. I can hear the arguments now, oh, we're going to lose 4.9 million in ARPA funds, so the city of Milford has to spend 3 million or 5 million or 10 million or some other number. This is no way to run a city. We should have a contract. We should have a project in front of us. We should know what it's going to cost. We should know how long it's going to take. We don't know any of those things. Just the cost alone would merit a no vote on this. Not only that, but this site, and technically we're supposed to be just here on this site. I think this is a bad site for this. I heard a reference over here about schools closing, and we've heard a lot from the Board of Education about their long-term plan, and schools are going to be closing. There's been continual discussion about Harborside Middle School closing, my old alma mater over there. Maybe for $1 million we can retrofit that, and all this can go in there, and we can save the citizens of Milford a boatload of money. I think we need to take a step back from this and take a look at other alternatives. I sense that there's this panic about, oh, there's ARPA money, we're going to lose ARPA money, we have to spend ARPA money, we have to bind the city of Milford into spending an unknown amount. And I hear this nice talk, oh, it'll come back to the Board of Aldermen. I've been in government stuff too long. I'm new to this board, and I'm like I said, I'm horrified. This is the way that business gets done here, but I can't countenance something like this. And I know with all best wishes and with all good intentions, we're being told that this project, which it's hard to tell exactly how, from the renderings we have, how much of this entire parking lot is being taken up by this project, but it's a lot. It's a lot. The parking is going to be impacted, and it's going to aggravate an already difficult parking situation there. And we were told earlier on in this process, oh, we have a thing all locked in with the church across the street. Turns out we don't. I don't mean that anybody said anything that was wrong intentionally, but somehow wires get crossed, presentations change. Oh, we meant that, it wasn't true. Gosh, we're sorry. Things haven't turned out the way we wanted, like this thing going up and down the center of town here. Oh, we didn't, nobody knew, we voted for it, and now we got this thing over here. We didn't know. This plan is too amorphous, but what we do have is we have a sketch here that looks like a really high density, frankly, it looks like it's been architected by the same guy who did this thing that's going up just down the street here. This is going to be another enormous high density edifice right on a main street. We're again, right now, changing the character of the city of Milford, wiping out a bunch of open space, putting in this what looks to me to be a gigantic building right on the road. And then we hear this other discussion about oh, we're going to use some of the ball fields back there, and some of the ball field, frankly, I've got a concern that those ball fields back there are going to get wiped out for a continual use of this and use of that. I think there's a desire in some quarters to use those ball fields for who knows what, and we're going to lose all that open space as well. So this whole project opens for me a series of concerns that I don't like where any of them goes. I don't like what I see. I don't like where it's going. And I think there is a far, far less expensive alternative waiting for us. And I think we are being, I don't know, stampeded into, oh, we're going to lose the ARPA funds. We got to do something to say. That is not a good reason to cite this thing here and to bind the city of Milford into an unknown number. You know, eight aldermen here tonight voted to raise taxes. And here we are with more bonding going on, and that's just going to bind us into tax increases in the future. The spending like this has got to stop somewhere. And I suggest we think about taking a step back from projects like this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Federico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the directors. If this were to pass tonight, I know you said what we're like 3 or 4 months out before you'd have an idea of the cost, right?
2 to 3 months for the
Okay.
design, and probably another 3 or 4 weeks, so just say 4 months total,
Okay.
where we'd have an actual cost. And I want to respond, we have a contingency plan if these costs come extremely high. We will shrink the building from 3 stories to 2 stories. It will still give DEPA the square footage, not ideal, but the square footage he wants with a full basement for storage. So we do have a contingency plan. And we're looking at these. And I'll say this, the building that we're mirroring is the building that's been sitting across the street from Wasson for 100 years. It's a manufacturer. It's a white building right on the road, and that's what we tried to look at. We tried to mirror that building and say, okay, let's dress it up a little bit with a covered porch, some shed dormers, some nice little bump outs. It's going to be a beautiful New England building. So I disagree with some of the representations that this is going to be some monster building. It's not.
Okay, and to be clear to the city attorney, no additional money is going to be spent by Milford just because of our vote tonight, right? Any additional money spent by Milford has to come back to us.
Mr. Chair, through you to Alder Federico, the only monies available for this project are the ARPA funds.
Okay. All right, thank you. Just 2 more quick questions. One is, so from there, when do you think you'd have shovels in the ground, best estimate?
It would be as quickly as possible. So it would be right after that. So
Okay.
we're looking, if we're 4 months, just say hypothetically 4 months, you know, we've got June, July, August, September. We're looking to get going, you know, right in October.
In the fall, okay.
Yeah, definitely. And I've had discussions with a number of contractors, decent-sized contractors that do work, and they feel fairly comfortable. And we've talked about the different scenarios. Obviously, this is going to go out to bid, but I just wanted to pick their brains. And obviously, Bob Smith was somebody I spoke with at length, and try to pick his brain on what he thought would be the best avenue, and what we're doing he thinks is the right way to go.
Okay, just one more thing. I know you said you wanted to put the parking to bed, but as you were talking earlier, I was looking at the space on a map, and I thought, wouldn't it be great if you could get some spaces in that area outside the superintendent's office? And then you said that was under consideration.
We've looked at a lot of different locations, but I will tell you, and I'm happy to walk with anyone on this board at any time, and I can show you what we've been doing for the last 1.5 years, but even behind the gym, why don't you count how many Board of Ed and city vehicles are back there every single day? And if we move those to Harborside, there's plenty of space at Harborside, and I'm not even talking 120 parking spaces at the project that's coming over here. We're going to have enough parking. That part I can put to bed 100%.
Okay. I would just say I would really like to see you maybe be able to utilize that area, especially maybe get it ready prior to construction, so it could be available for people who work in the building during construction, especially if you could fit a few like handicap spaces in there.
Yeah, we've looked at that, and that's the other thing, because it's ADA compliant in that area too. So.
Yep. Okay.
And that will come outside of this ARPA money. We're going to do that internally with us, with our city funds that we presently have.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's it for me.
Any more discussion on the motion? 5-minute recess, please.
disappear?
No, that's not good.
We are out of recess. Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Pacelli.
Thank you, Chairman. Through you to the board, it's my understanding, based on what I'm, again, hearing today, that this is an opportunity for us to allow the department to obtain pricing to move forward to determine whether or not at this location it would be able to build a new department, which the city sorely needs, for the amount of money that's available. Obviously, if that building would go over budget, it'll be back before us again to consider whether or not it's appropriate or we're willing to spend those extra dollars. So to me, this seems like it would be a foolish decision to not go forward with the understanding that we have an opportunity to fully fund, hopefully, this project. And if not, then we'd have an opportunity to talk about it again and decide what, as a board, we want to do and what we think is best for the city. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Marlowe.
I would just like to say that, again, not against what you need. I am struggling, and I don't think I can support where it is right now, and I want to explain myself here, is that I would rather see us put some seed money, if we want to call it that, into getting accurate estimates before we approve putting it in the parking lot here, and be able to, because I don't like to think that we're going to do something, and if we don't have the money, then we're going to downsize, and it's not going to give Deepa what she really needs. So I'd rather see us put, again, I don't know what the better term for it is than seed money, into getting an accurate representation before we approve this.
So if I can answer that, and I appreciate Alderman Pacelli, this process is this. You approve it, we get a design, we go out to bid. At that point, God forbid it's $8 million, as Alderman Smith says, then more than likely we're either going to not build it, or we're going to come back before you and say, hey, we thought it was this, it's going to be that. I have a lot of confidence where we're going to get this to, working with not only just with ourselves internally, but with the contractor, whoever the contractor is. But we're not going to spend more than 4.9. So all you're going to spend now is the design work to get it exactly where you want to be, Scott. And I'm going to say this, I've been here 11 years. If this board does not approve this, to at least go down that path, you're making a monster mistake. We have $31 million we spent with ARPA. This is going to be something that's going to be 80, 90, 100 years. It's going to still be there, and it's going to be a beautiful building. It's going to be a New England building, and it's going to fit well in the neighborhood. That's the commitment I'm making. And all I can tell you is at least give us the opportunity to go down there and get the numbers you're looking for. And we'll have that within 3 to 4 months.
And
Thank you.
if I could just add to that, I think to speak to the process that Mr. Saley was discussing, we came here tonight to get, hopefully, the 824 approval in order to proceed. So it's a little bit, and I understand the comments and the thought process for sure, but we could not go out to bid to get a design, to get the fixed costs, until we receive the 824 approval from this board. So this was really part of the process of being able to come here for the 824 and then be able to do the next step, which would be to go out to bid and get those fixed costs.
Understood, thank you. I appreciate the comments. I'm just looking at it differently, where I would want to know exactly what I need to spend to do what you want to do, that's all.
And it's interesting you say what comes first, the chicken or the egg, because if we spend 100 or 150 on design and we don't use it, because you don't get your approval, then it's like, well, we just spent that money. It depends on which way you want to go, but we think this is the appropriate way to go, which is We hopefully get your approval. We go forward, we get an estimate, a concrete contract estimate, and we know where we stand. We have our concept.
Thank you.
Another thing I want to point out, I'm in the building business, and I want to point this out. I was on the police department building committee, and we spent 2 years with everything considered. We come up with $40 million. Ben Blake turned it down. Now, if he wanted to build it now, it's $80 million. So, with DEPA, with DEPA meeting, this is things that are needed for the city of Milford. This is not going away. This is something that is needed right now. And she's been dealing with what she has for as long as she has been, and she needs this new facility to do what's right for the citizens of Milford. So you turn this down tonight, the next time it goes to cost, it's going to cost even more. So if it's the cost that you're worrying about, it'll all come out in the end. It's just, you got to get, like Mr. Saley said, you got to get the basics passed first. Then you can go into all the bidding, find out what it's going to cost. Right now, we got to get the permission to do that. So anyways, any more discussion on the motion? Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm excited about building the new health department. I'm really excited. I actually reached out to the state bonding committee, and I'm trying to earmark $5 million to pay for the rest of this building. And I want to thank Chris and Deepa for their presentation, because Deepa said something that resonated with me. Out of all the ARPA funds, this is the intent of what ARPA funds were meant for. This is a public health building. I know a lot of ARPA funds were spent for other things, not necessarily the right things, but this is the right thing. And I hope that all of you get behind this and support this, because to Chris Saley's point, this building will be a lasting building in our city. We need this building. If we had extra land, believe me, we would take advantage of it. But unfortunately, we don't. This is the best case scenario. There's been other parcels that were vetted. You've heard it tonight, and I don't want to repeat it, but you have to understand that this is what we need. If you drive by our health department, you can see how small and how inefficient it is. They can't even receive deliveries by truck because there's nowhere to back up a truck. This building is designed, it's going to have a loading dock where they can offload, safety equipment. We've lived through a pandemic, and we have to be smart about it. And I appreciate all of your concerns. And there is a lot of unknowns, but I know this. To Phil Vitro's point, Alderman Vitro, the time is now. If we delay, it's just going to cost more. And we can't afford to go out and buy another piece of property. This is already city-owned property. So we're saving to begin with. And we have $4.9 million. That's a lot of money, and that's going to go a long way. And I have confidence that we're going to make the best use of this money. And we have to reach out to our state delegation, and we have to secure another $5 million. We spend millions of dollars in Milford on beautification that comes from the state. This is a very essential point of our community, public health, being able to do vaccinations in this clinic, generate revenue, make it easily accessible. We will solve the parking problem. And the church is a neighbor, a good neighbor, and they want to work with us and they want to help us. And we already use that parking lot for events. That's not going to go away. So I encourage you to all vote for this. I think it's important. I think we need to all come together as a board and support this building. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Archiola.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I'd actually like to make a motion to call the question.
Is there any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Healy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also would just like to make a brief statement. I am in favor of this project, this proposal. There is a true operational need for this facility from an emergency management standpoint, the comprehensive look at what we need for our municipality. We will be talking in the future, as was mentioned earlier, about a police department, and these all dovetail in and tie in to our comprehensive plan. The operational need here is real, and our Director of Public Works has identified mechanisms to mitigate costs. So we're going to spend the ARPA funds. He's going to come back to us. We're going to have the opportunity, to look at the real numbers. If it extends beyond the ARPA funds, there is an opportunity, as the director has indicated, that they could leave certain third floor sections of the building, and then we grow into it. We grow into it how? By utilizing the expertise of our public works professionals to go in and do future build out. I'd rather have the whole building done, completely, but we'll see what we get there. What's our other option? Our other option is to bond it, and we'll have that opportunity when Director Saley presents back to us the final numbers on the building. If it comes in within this, I'm sure he's going to be able to articulate in his plan the expense of the ARPA funds, as well as what else might be needed to complete the building 100%, or how his plan to mitigate beyond the ARPA funds, and then we will have the opportunity to vote again. So for tonight, I agree, we should all vote unanimously to approve this project. Thank you.
I'd like to ask you for a vote. All in favor? Opposed? Roll call vote, Madam Secretary, please.
Alderman Archiola?
Yes.
Alderman Beatty? Alderman Bevan?
Yes.
Alderman Casey?
No.
Alderman Federico?
Yes.
Alderman Fowler?
No.
Alderman Healy?
Yes.
Alderman Jenkins?
No.
Alderman Marlowe?
No.
Alderman Mulrennan?
Absolutely, yes.
Alderman Pacelli?
Yes.
Alderman Smith?
No.
Alderman Vitro?
Yes.
Alderman Vitale? Yes. Alderman Willis?
Yes.
Nine yeses, 5 noes.
One more time.
9 yes, 5 no.
9 yes, 5 no. The motion passes. Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Thank you all.
Alderman Pacelli, agenda item number 8C.
Agenda item 8C, Board of Aldermen approval is requested for the attached State of Connecticut Department of Public Health contract amendment between the City of Milford and the State of Connecticut, and to authorize the Mayor, City Attorney, and Director of Health to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents to effectuate said agreement.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Federico.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the Health Director or the City Attorney, can we just get a plain language explanation of what this is?
Hi, so this is a contract amendment for a contract that we had in place through the Connecticut Department of Public Health. It is COVID ARPA funds received by the State Health Department and passed through to local health departments and districts across the state for the purpose of immunizations. So it's coming before you today, particularly this amendment to give us an additional $68,097, really because this amendment was actually in process quite some time ago, but with the pauses that were put in place federally, the State Health Department put everything on pause. This funding was part of that pause. There was a decision by a judge last week or towards the end of the week before that ruled in the state's favor and put these funds back in motion. And so the State Health Department put out this contract amendment towards the end of last, or middle of last week or so, for signature and execution.
$68,000 increase additional to what we've already been granted.
Correct.
And that's it. Okay, thank you.
Alderman Casey.
Mr. Chair, did I hear you right? It's like it was a court decision that allowed us to free up the funds?
Right, so there was a federal pause on grant funding that was passed through to local health departments, to state health departments and then local health departments. Connecticut was part of a number of states that filed suit, and a judge ruled in the favor of the states.
Okay, and that was like a federal decision?
Correct.
And what court was that?
It was a court in Rhode Island. I know it was a judge in Rhode Island.
Thank you. That's an appeal or anything?
So I don't know if there's currently an appeal right now, but as far as the state health department had a meeting with local health directors across the state because we were issued stop work orders when the federal pause went into place. So they convened all of us to let us know that we would be able to resume work, and those of us who had amendments that were going to be in play, that those contract amendments would be coming out to us.
Okay, and I turn to the city attorney. Is that case on appeal, or do you know the situation with the court decision?
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Casey, I have no independent knowledge of the case. I just know that this contract was sent to us last week. They said, what do we need for approval? I said there's an indemnification provision within it. It needs legislative approval by the Board of Aldermen. I don't know the status of the appeal. I recall vaguely about the pause in terms of the grant funding. As you know, it was, I think, over $238,000. This is a $68,000 amendment. So it was a little more, about $170,000 for this program, but I don't know the status. I don't want to guess in terms of that. I just know that the pause is off, and the Department of Public Health in Connecticut presented this to local health departments for execution.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Yes, Alderman Jenkins.
And as I read this correctly, I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, to Director Joseph, this is for virtually a marketing campaign, correct?
No.
No. Develop and implement educational campaigns and media outreach.
So that is really a summary description of a lot of more detailed activities. Really what these funds are for and will be used for. And I believe when I came here for our budget hearing, I talked a little bit about, at that time, it was a $127,000 cut that we had seen because of the pause. These funds really go towards our immunization and outreach efforts. There was a media campaign associated with this funding in the original contract prior to the pause, where we did PSAs around immunizations. But this funding really is going to be focused towards medical supplies, as well as we have a community health nurse who was working with our homebound population who, when they wanted vaccines and contacted us, our community health nurse would go out to respond to that. That was put on pause when this funding was put on pause. So we'll be able to put that back into play, as well as purchase the medical supplies that we need that were already budgeted in this contract.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of questions on some of the language that's used here. That it says brief description of service. It says to develop and implement vaccine educational campaigns. What are vaccine educational campaigns?
Vaccine, as I mentioned in the prior question, vaccine educational campaigns are We did a PSA last fall. So I'll just point out this, again, this
And I'm
is
sorry,
for
what's a PSA?
a public service announcement.
Public service announcement, okay.
So in the fall, we did public service announcements relative to immunizations, flu vaccines, vaccines for respiratory viruses, and that was all done based off of, you'll see number 3 in the brief description refers to a rapid community assessment. So we conducted a rapid community assessment of the Milford community to ask questions around immunizations and what people felt they needed. And some of that feedback was they wanted to hear from local providers in terms of recommendations around immunizations. So that public service announcement we did based on the rapid community assessment involved our school medical advisor, our local pediatric group, our school nurses, and so that was the public service announcement. But again, this $236,584 is inclusive of the initial contract and this $68,097 amendment. So a lot of that work was already done prior to the pause.
A lot, but not all. What does promote vaccine confidence mean?
Promote vaccine confidence and address vaccine hesitancy. So that is around, again, within our rapid community assessment, we asked community members their thoughts and ideas on vaccines, and were there things that would improve their confidence in getting vaccinated if they were to think about it, and were there reasons that they were hesitant, and were there things that we could do to address that hesitancy or to educate, and so that's really what that is around. And again, we combined the results of our rapid community assessment to inform the activities under number 1.
And what does it mean here when it says it's to address vaccine hesitancy? What does that mean?
So, as I just mentioned, in our rapid community assessment, we asked questions around if you are hesitant to get vaccinated, what are the reasons that you're hesitant? And are there things that we can address in terms of educational initiatives, or are there people you would like to hear from within the community to address any of that hesitancy?
And on this second page of 8C here, when it says grant description, immunization and vaccines for children, what is that referring to?
I'm sorry, on page?
It's the second page of our handout that has 8C is the cover page, and the next page says 8C again at the top. It says page 1 of 33, and in the center it has grant description.
Yeah.
And in that grant description it says immunization and vaccines for children. And I'm asking you, what does that mean?
So that whole table, so this is template language through the State of Connecticut Department of Public Health.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time picking up your answer.
That is template language from the State of Connecticut Department of Public Health. That table in the middle references the grants that the State Public Health Department has that is going towards this contract. So it references, 3 different SID numbers or state ID numbers for contracts. So that is what it's their contract name for funding they got through the CDC.
And that's the grant description. So are you all carrying out this grant description?
So that is the pot of funds, that is the name of the grant that the State Health Department received, and they are passing through funds to us to conduct the activities as outlined in the contract.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed?
Nay.
Roll call vote, Madam Secretary, please.
Alderman Archiola,
Yes.
Alderman Beatty, Alderman Bevan,
No?
Alderman Casey,
No.
Alderman Federico,
Yes.
Alderman Fowler,
No.
Alderman Healy, Alderman Jenkins,
No.
Alderman Marlowe,
Yes.
Alderman Morenon,
Yes.
Alderman Pacelli,
Yes.
Alderman Smith,
No.
Alderman Vitro,
Yes.
Alderman Vitale, Alderman Willis.
Yes.
Nine yes, 5 no.
9 yes, 5 no. The motion passes. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Alderman Pacelli.
Board of Aldermen, agenda item 8D. Board of Aldermen approval is requested for the attached electronic voting equipment lease agreement between the City of Milford and the State of Connecticut, and to authorize the mayor, city attorney, and registrar of voters to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents to effectuate said agreement.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Federico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the city attorney, can we just get like a rough explanation of what this is for?
Mr. Chair, through you, it's my understanding this is for voting tabulator machines. It's a $1 lease. In fact, as of this afternoon, the state of Connecticut, in terms of providing these machines, instead of a $1 lease for them, has indicated that there's some momentum to just give them to municipalities. But the idea was we had some confirmation, but not total confirmation. So the request before this board is for the nominal $1 a year for these voting machines, to just seek this board's approval for the registrars to accept these machines from the state.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Casey.
You, to the city attorney. So any municipality that says that the state says that you can do that for free, do the city councils or like the board of them have to do anything to accept it, or just it automatically happens?
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Casey. So originally the Secretary of State's office gave these proposed leases for the $1. As I indicated several hours ago, they said, we may not require the leases, we may just give them to you. The thought process was it was already on the agenda to seek your approval. It's a nominal sum. I think it's just a paper, the gift, if you will.
Yeah, I was going to ask about a hypothetical, like if they go to get it, we don't have to do anything.
No, they just take receipt of the machines.
Okay, thank you. So the only thing the board of Aldermen is approving is the $1 lease.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure if this should go to the city attorney or maybe the city clerk. I see that part of this is we're going to be getting not only these machines, but software. Could someone describe what this software is that we're getting?
I will attempt to answer that. With the new machines, the Secretary of State in the state of Connecticut is revamping their election system. I think the software rollouts are, my understanding, as they're going to be implemented after the municipal elections. They were originally intended to roll out before, but they wanted to get the machines and the tabulators up first.
So I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but it doesn't sound like you're overly familiar with this
No,
software.
the issue that we're talking about is the tabulators. I'm sure these are new tabulators, so they will have a new system for counting. The old system was for the old machines. there will be a change in the software configurations on the state. That's all coming out of the Secretary of State's office.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Roll call vote. Madam Secretary, please.
Alderman Archiola?
Yes.
Alderman Bevan?
Yes.
Alderman Casey?
Yes.
Alderman Federico?
Yes.
Alderman Fowler?
Yes.
Alderman Healy?
Yes.
Alderman Jenkins?
Yes.
Alderman Marlowe?
Yes.
Alderman Morenin?
Yes.
Alderman Pacelli?
Yes.
Alderman Smith?
No.
Alderman Vitro?
Yes.
Alderman Vitale? Alderman Willis?
Yes.
13 yes, 1 no.
13 yes, 1 no. Motion passes. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Agenda item number 9, new business not on the agenda. We do not have that. Go on to agenda item number 10, budget memo transfers. There is none. Agenda item 11, refund list. Alderman, yeah, okay, Alderman Pacelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Agenda item 11A, consideration of refunds in the amount of $33,691.37.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Agenda item 11, refunds list. We just got, pardon me, agenda item 12, report of standing committees. Any reports of any standing committees? Seeing none, move on to agenda item number 13, report of special committees. Any special committee reports? Seeing none, I respectfully ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor? Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Thank you, Mr. City Clerk. Thank you, Bob Pacelli.